Yo, what's going on, Dragon Ballers? Welcome back to another event recap video. This time we're talking about Pro Play Tour Vegas that just concluded yesterday. Today we're talking about the top cut, the winning decks, the strategies, the tech options, everything you need to know going into this format. Guys, if you're new to the channel, make sure to subscribe, hit that bell so you never miss a video. Want to get involved in Dragon Ball Super community? Make sure to check out the Discord down below. And finally, guys, 3 ways you can help the channel out directly. Number 1, we got the Patreon down below, lots of competitive content for you. Number 2, the YouTube channel memberships down below with the join button. And number 3, guys, if you want to buy any of the cards you see in today's video, make sure to use my link to TCG Player or Beerus Collectibles down below. With that being said, we will get right into this. So we've got the top 16 breakdown here. Again, pretty much the same thing we're used to seeing now. It's a very, very diverse format. We've got pretty much every color in the mix. We've got yellow, red, blue, black. I think the only thing we're missing right now is green, and I think green has gotten significantly buffed, especially going into set 8 with blue-green being a new color scheme. But it does seem like green leaders themselves do kind of lack a little bit, because one of the things they do is they still try and do the hand control thing for a bit, but they still do get hit pretty hard by Mercenary Tau. So I think that's one of the things holding them back, and I think the loss of Zeno Button is also going to greatly hold them back even further moving forward. But we're not talking about that format yet. We're talking about the current format. So we've got, of course, Yellow Broly, and it turned out Yellow Broly won the event in a Babies Finals match. Apparently, it was a Swift 2-0, and all the Broly variants in the room were Guy Broly, green, blue, yellow Broly. It seems like this is just kind of taken over the spot of the typical blue-yellow Broly we're used to seeing with Zeno Button, with Grade 8 Bardock Raiders Warcry. They're still playing all those cards, but they've adopted the blue-green engine, and actually it's pretty interesting. They're actually playing a mixture of blue-green cards, blue-yellow cards, and in some cases, green-yellow cards. They're playing a mixed match of dual colors. Broly All Out Assault being an MVP card of the weekend. It comes in, it pops Apocalypse Grudge Grade 8 Babies, it taps energy, whether when you arrival it or when you restand it with your Broly leader, or if you're playing the 2-drop yellow Gohan with barrier that also restands your yellow battle cards. That's another way to trigger this guy. And of course, they are playing the Android 16 energy amplification. It just gets you into your plays much faster. I mean, you don't really need a 30k threat. You can't always play Mirror Creator Absorbed when you do this, but you get to your plays faster. And getting to that Piccolo assimilated ability, that turn 4 Piccolo that just wreaks havoc on aggro decks, especially because you are a more defensive button deck. And it really helps against Baby as well, because a lot of their stuff like Malicious Majesty, the Conqueror, a lot of the Baby cards that threaten you are 5 or less. Even Heartfelt Plea is a 5 or less. So having the Piccolo for that and getting to that on turn 3 can be detrimental. Plus, when you do ramp with the 16, you will automatically turn on that bond, because as long as you don't combo away the 16, you have the bond 2 active. The Piccolo counts for itself. You also have the Android 16 for the bond. And of course, guys, I mean, nothing new in the sense that Broly is just one of the strongest leaders in the game. They decided to hit Button, but maybe it's time for this leader to go. I mean, I'm not saying it's obscenely broken or obscenely overpowered. It does seem to have proven itself as one of the strongest leaders in all of the game's existence. I mean, I think that much is apparent. Does it need to go, though? I don't know. Let me know in the comments below what you think. But this is the deck that ended up winning the event. Blue, green, yellow Broly. And of course, we had Starter Baby. Now, interestingly enough, this was the only variant of Baby to top this event. There was no red Baby like there was at Pro Play Tour Dallas, and still no signs of the main set Baby, which is a much more pure aggro version. The nice thing about Starter Baby and red Baby is that they can kind of pivot from aggro to mid-range. And really, the Super Baby 2 Starter Baby variants we saw at this event were pretty much cookie cutter from what we saw from last event. I mean, of course, you got your Apocalypse Grudge Grade 8 combo. Not many of the lists were playing Malicious Majesty. Some of them were side decking it, but really no one was playing it in the main deck because no one's playing the Brainwash cards. They just don't really synergize well with this leader, so you can never really Union Absorb into them with the All-Consuming Terror. You either have to cast it for 5 or go into it off of Baby Vengeful Blow. But besides that, Apocalypse Grudge Grade 8 Baby is your main like early game to mid game play, and they're all playing the Pan Grade 8 Whisperer as well as Super Saiyan 4 Goku, Heartfelt Plea. That's really the finishing power of this deck. You know, swing with a triple strike in terms of your Apocalypse Grudge Grade 8, awaken, sack that guy off, play Heartfelt Plea, get the offering trigger, swing with that. You played the Pan when you awaken to 2 life, restand that. 3 triple strikes, almost like a Height of Mastery, but a little bit of like a lower to the ground version, because depending on when you awaken, you could do that as early as turn 2, turn 3 if you're taking a lot of damage, or if it's more of like a mid-range grindy game that can kind of clean it up for you. And really what this is starting to seem like is kind of just like red yellow good stuff, and I think there's another version of red yellow good stuff that is pretty strong right now, but we will get to that in just a bit. But next up on the list, we did have another Shenron. So interestingly enough, at Pro Play Tour Dallas, there was one Shenron that topped, and that was Shenron Victory Strike. This time around, we have a small resurgence of Shenron Gogeta. So this deck did top this event, and many people thought this deck was pretty much dead. I mean, personally, I don't know how this deck really deals with Baby. I mean, they don't really have great answers to it. This was a blue-yellow version of Shenron Gogeta, and of course, guys, if you want to see the actual deck lists themselves, those are posted on the PPG Pro Play Tour Facebook page. Make sure to go check them out if you want to see the actual physical lists. But I'm just kind of giving you guys the breakdown. This was a blue-yellow version of Shenron Gogeta, so they were playing Nimbus in the main deck, and then, you know, you just want to stall, get to turn 4 because you do ramp with objection, get to turn 4 at 5 energy, drop Gogeta 7, triple attack. And I mean, if you successfully drop the Gogeta 7, no hiccups in the way, like no Chomp the Trickster, no Mutaito, things like that, you're pretty much guaranteed the game unless they do rip the Time Magic being the only real negate that stops a triple attack Gogeta 7, or a Mafuba if you're playing against some type of blue deck. But nevertheless, this is what you're looking at for that. It was a one of. I don't expect it to be too dominant in the format though myself. Next up, we have the other red yellow good stuff deck, and that is Beerus. So when it comes to red yellow, of course there are a few archetypes in set 8. Of course, you have the baby stuff, which we see is incredibly strong. We've also got the SS4 Goku Pan leader, which seems to be like a more hyper aggressive leader, but I don't know, besides like some type of lineage swap deck and giving everything double strike that you possibly can, that doesn't seem to be doing too well. I think defense in the format right now is too strong for a deck like that to be too powerful because you put yourself in a fragile situation. But the other red yellow deck being Bulma, and of course that's one of the only red centric leader ones, but that has a very specific archetype in mind that is kind of hard to play. It takes a lot of setup and is prone to being interrupted by a lot of counterplays. Beerus though, finally getting to Beerus, this seems to be the other leader that facilitates red yellow good stuff the best. And what I mean by red yellow good stuff, of course, we got Heartfelt Plea, we've got Pan the Great Ape Whisperer. You don't have Apocalypse Guard's Great Ape Baby because your leader's not a machine mutant, so you can't trigger his effects. But what you do have is Beerus No Holds Barred, and of course the backside of Beerus does allow you to get a free red yellow combo once per turn during both players' turns in a combo step. So you swing for a 25 every turn, or you can even throw that 10k combo on like a Heartfelt Plea going for game if you wanted to. You could also do that defensively, so you get some free defensive arrivals. Free in the sense that it doesn't cost you combos from your hand, it will still cost you energy, but you don't have to waste anything from your hand in order to get that arrival off. And Beerus No Holds Barred, probably one of the strongest cards in this format. I mean, most of the baby lists were also playing that card. It's a super strong interruption. Killing a 30k or less for a red and a yellow is almost like a denial of hope mid-battle. I mean, of course, they do get any enter play effects, but sometimes killing things mid-battle is more important. I actually wrote a Patreon article about that last week that kind of talks about the battle interruptions and how to play around them. That seems to be a very prevalent theme this format, battle interruptions, things that you need to kill during battle, things you need to play around that will kill yourself during battle. And Beerus seems to be one of the best cards that facilitates that red yellow good stuff type of thing that has a lot of interruptions. So no surprise that Beerus was at this event topping 2 spots. Next up, we've got Janemba, and there were 2 Janembas in this top cut. Interestingly enough, we had one guy Janemba, and then we also had one American Janemba. American Janemba, for those of you guys who don't know, is what the nickname goes for. Blue, red, yellow Janemba. Yellow kind of being the stand-in for white. But, so you had one end of the spectrum being like green with a little bit of a stronger counterplay presence, of course, in the face of Vegeta the Cruel. Vegeta the Cruel in Janemba just kind of makes perfect sense. You stop your opponent from dropping a threat on you, and you pick at their hand. So while you're picking at their hand, you're swinging at their leader, milling their deck out, putting them in kind of like a dire situation. And American Janemba, it just has Topo, and that's pretty much enough said. I mean, of course, all the red, yellow, good stuff decks were just playing Topo, but American Janemba and Topo make perfect sense. The thing with like blue red Janemba back in the day, it was pretty much mono blue, but it splashed like Unbreakable for red. It's that you couldn't out combo them ever. You couldn't really ever beat them in combo power because they had all the pseudo combos. They had 8 pseudo combos and 4 regular super combos. Now you kind of just get rid of that because we have such stronger counterplays in the format that it seems like Tempo Janemba is much better, and Topo and Vegeta the Cruel are both just insane tempo killers. I mean, Topo Righteous Aid is one of the cornerstones of the format right now because you have to be playing cards that answer Topo, whether that's Denial of Hope, Focus Breakthrough, Absolute Release Ball. you need to be able to win games through a topo. And yeah, Janemba taking advantage of that. That just seems like one of the perfect things it wants to do, which is stall out. So I can definitely see American Janemba kind of going forward and advancing in this format as one of the premier decks. Next up, we have Demigra taking up one of the aggro slots in Top Cut. And this is super cool. I actually posted a list earlier this week on the Crossworld TCG Facebook page just for like a aggro Demigra deck that I came up with. And while this list wasn't exactly what I was playing, it's still a super cool take on the deck. So one of the cards that unfortunately I couldn't picture here because I couldn't find a clear enough image online was the Turles Tournament Pack card, the Ghost Warrior. And what that card does is you can shuffle back 2 black battle cards with an energy cost between 3 and 7 to the bottom of your deck, play it for free. It is a 10k dual attacker, and you can discard a card to give it plus 5k for the duration of the turn. So what you can do in Demigra is on turn 2, you can use the new Demigra promo from the Magnificent deck. It costs 2 energy, it bursts 2, and it lets you play a Gravy and a Poutine from your deck or Warp. So that's 2 attackers right there. You swing with your leader, you mill 3. So at that point, you have 5 in your drop area, 2 of which hopefully you can use to drop the Turles. So that is 4 attacks, your leader, the Poutine, the Gravy, and the Turles. 5 attacks when you give the Turles dual attack. And in my build, I was playing Beerus Godly Majesty so that you could pitch that off of the Turles and then play it because it was discarded by a battle card skill. That gives you just so many attacks, it's not even funny. This build, however, was not playing the Beerus. I do think that's a pretty cool tech option, but Demigra does seem to be one of the most aggressive decks in the format. I mean, when you can just drop that many attackers on turn 2, it's pretty much a no-brainer. And if you see the fragile decks, the non-super defensive decks, you clean them up with a Mirror Creator Absorbed or a Mirror Assault from the Skies, you're going to be golden. Next up, in other terms of mono black, we had Hatchiack. So, I mean, of course, guys, nothing new here. And Hatchiack just seems like relatively solved at this point. I mean, it's almost like Janemba in the sense that it's one of the more annoying decks to face. I actually don't think Hatchiack is as good as Janemba because Janemba has 2 real win conditions, one of which is milling you out, but if you get kind of sloppy, they can outright kill you with a well-timed Furthering Instruction Champa. I guess Hatchiack could do the same thing. There's no reason why you can't tech, Furthering Instruction Champa in this. And I didn't really see any Hatchiack lists doing that at this event, but I mean, they're pretty much just as slow as you are. And there's actually a lot of things that can screw over Hatchiack. They can mill their Demigra SCR, for example, and not ever see Trunks power over same time. The Hatchiack boss monster, while strong, is not the most threatening thing ever. But I think Hatchiack, the way the leader auto is set up, some decks just kind of can't play against it. So it is going to be one of those decks you see. You do have to be able to have a strategy to beat it, but I wouldn't say it's one of the most scary decks in the format. Next up, we've got Lemon Lime Golden Frieza. This is super cool. This deck has made its 2nd top cut in a row. It did top Pro Play Tour Dallas. And yeah, this just seems to be another green-yellow arrival deck centered around Super Saiyan Broly All-Out Assault. Interestingly enough, this deck was also teching Victory Strike Goku, but in this side deck. And I imagine that was for like weird matchups like Janemba and for weird matchups like Hatchiack, because being an 8-drop, it does get around Hatchiack's auto. And of course, we all know that Janemba does kind of Victory Strike blows out Janemba, sorry. And Frieza never has to attack Janemba to gain advantage, at least until they get to the backside. So you could literally just keep your leader untapped the entire time, play Victory Strike for 8, and then like kill them. That's pretty funny. But overall, guys, that was the top cut of this event. Pretty diverse once again, and we're seeing a lot of cool strategies. I mean, this is a time in Dragon Ball Super where the game is super diverse. You can play pretty much any strategy you want right now as long as it's sound and you can figure out a place for it in the format. It can beat a good amount of matchups. We're in a really cool place right now, and I love it. I mean, I think the ban of Xenobutton is going to do good things for the game overall. I mean, I do think that green, blue, yellow Broly is kind of obnoxious, so I guess I'm glad about that. I kind of wish it would get rid of the Broly leader altogether. Not because it's too busted or overpowered, but because it's kind of too generic, and it's just kind of interacting with strategies they didn't kind of want it to. But guys, let me know in the comments below what you think about this format, about Yellow Broly. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you next time.